Do you use colour combinations inspired by nature? For the new inspiration challenge, I'm going to show you how I was inspired to use a colour combination I may not have thought of. Hello there, Michelle Short here with Terrific Tags with Michelle. Today I have a card to share with you using a colour combination inspired by nature. This is the inspiration challenge photo for April. I took the photo last spring of some Nemesia growing in my garden. I think these colours are so pretty, so I wanted to use them on my card today. So let's get started. I'm using the Pleasant Pansy 3D die set today. I thought this would mimic the Nemesia really well since they're from the same kind of family. You absolutely do not need to be so literal with the inspiration challenge, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Off camera I have die cut the Pleasant Pansy 3D die from Gradient Cardstock. So I've got all of my different pieces here. I've got some leaves, they're cut from Green Meadows Gradient Cardstock. And then I also have all of the different layers of the pansy itself. And that's cut from New Purple Gradient Cardstock. And then for one of the layers I did cut that from white cardstock because in my Nemesia picture there is a little bit of white on those flowers. And then for the tiny little piece right in the middle I used Summer Afternoon Gradient Cardstock. So I'm going to start off by layering all of the pieces together. I started off using glue tape and then I realised quite quickly that it would probably be easier for me to use the 2-in-1 precision glue pen. So I'm just adding small dabs of that, and then I'm going to use the micro tip tweezers just to help me pick up the pieces and place them down one on top of each other. Now ordinarily if I wasn't doing this on camera I would probably just keep the pieces on my table and then just add them on top, but because I didn't want my head to basically completely get in the way of the camera, I am lifting up the pieces, but obviously everyone does it in slightly different ways, whatever is easier for you to do that. Sometimes I find it just easier sort of leaning forward to be able to see if the pieces are lined up, but this is quite a good way to see if they're lined up as well. And to be honest with you, if they're not completely lined up, I don't think it really matters too much. I think these flowers are just so pretty and I love to be able to cut them from lots of different colours of the cardstock. Those gradient cardstock packs are so helpful to know which colours to layer on top of each other. Like I said, I did add this white piece here because the Nemesia do have them, and so I quite liked just having that little pop of white there. You don't see a huge amount of it, but I think it just breaks up that purple a little bit. So I'm using that 2-in-1 precision glue pen to add glue onto the back of these pieces. This glue pen actually, if you adhere it straight away, dries permanent, but if you leave it to dry for a little while before you actually stick the pieces down, it is removable as well, so that's quite helpful. I've got that tiny little piece there right in the middle of that yellow, and then I'm just going to add the last two pieces here, and they kind of one either side, and I feel like it kind of makes like a little bit of a face. I do love pansies and Nemesia. So I can just add that last piece down there. And then for the leaves, I'm actually going to do something slightly different. The packaging does show how you would layer them up and it's really helpful to be able to see that, but I'm just going to do it completely different. I've cut the two of the layers. I'm not actually using the third layer of that kind of line in the middle of the leaf. I've cut them from the exact same colour of the cardstock. I didn't really want there to be much of a difference between the two, so I'm just still layering them up, but just with that same colour of cardstock, and I think it worked quite nicely for my card. I'm then taking the Terrific Tags dies and I'm actually going to cut this down, this tag, into kind of like a banner piece. Although I'm making a card today, and to be honest you would have no idea that it was a tag in the first place, I really like to be able to use elements like this in different ways than you may not have thought of. So what I'm doing here is I've taken my card base and I'm just marking a line where I want to actually cut that tag down. So that's going to become become a banner element onto my card base. I do want to add some colour onto this layer, kind of like a background piece. So I'm going to use the Sunray Crisp Dye Ink for this, and then also a small ink blending tool. And I'm just going to blend that onto this little banner that I've created from the tag die. And I'm adding the majority of the saturated colour at the top, and then I'm going to kind of blend it down to white towards the bottom. So like I mentioned, I'm going for quite a literal approach to my inspiration photo. I quite often do that, and I feel like I kind of in some ways have to, but you absolutely don't. If you like the colours, you could do absolutely anything. You didn't have to do flowers, you didn't have to do, like say the inspiration photo was leaves, for example, like autumn leaves. You could just get the colour inspiration from that. And it kind of works as a starting point. So although I have the yellow, the green and the purple for my inspiration challenge colours today, that could just be a starting point, and you can still add extra colours on top. But what I found really good was that I actually used yellow on this background rather than I would probably use maybe like a light blue or a purple. It really kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone in a way to be able to bring in that yellow a bit more. It's not a colour that I use that much, so it was really nice actually to use it on my card, and I really like the finished card. I really like the colour combination, and it's definitely something that I necessarily wouldn't have thought of before. So I'm now stamping my sentiment here. This is from the Sentiment Strips stamp set, and I'm going to ink that up with Obsidian Pigment Ink. So I'm just lightly tapping that onto that sentiment here, and then I can stamp that down in the MISTI onto some white cardstock. I'm then going to cut that down into a strip. I've then got my banner piece here that I added the ink blending onto the front, and I'm going to add some Instant Dimension foam tape to the back. I do want to add a fair amount of dimension onto this card because I'm keeping all of the kind of design elements just in one sort of section of the card base. I do like to have extra dimension. I think it adds something sort of extra onto a fairly clean and simple card. So I can just remove the backings of that foam tape with the tweezers, and then I can just add that onto my card base here, just in the top right hand corner. So I'm just trying my best here to line it up as best as possible. And then once I'm happy, I can press that down. I'm then going to bring in my two pansies here so that I can figure out exactly where I want them to be. Before I stick them down, I'm going to add on the other elements, but it's helpful just to be able to see where they're going to go before I stick the other elements down. So I'm using some glue tape here to add that onto the backs of the leaves. So my card base is actually 5.5 inches tall, but only 4 inches across. So I've cut that down slightly so that I can have this leaf just hanging off of the edge. I really like having elements hanging off of the edge of cards and tags and things like that. And because I've cut that card base just slightly narrower, it will still fit inside of a standard sized envelope. So I can just add all of my leaves here around those two pansies. And I think that that yellow in the background just really makes the flowers pop against it, maybe more so even than what white would look like. So then I can just add some more of that glue tape onto the back of those pansies, and then I'm just going to stick those down. So just working out where I wanted them to be here, and then I can place that down. And that glue tape is really going to hold them quite nicely, even though there's quite a lot of dimension kind of stacked on top of each other. I'm then taking some more of that Instant Dimension foam tape, and I'm going to add that onto the back of the sentiment strip. But I do just want to add it on the right hand side because the left hand side is going to overlap that flower slightly. So I can just cut small pieces of that. And then once I'm happy with that, I can add some glue tape onto the right hand side where it's going to overlap that flower, and then I can stick that down onto that banner piece. And then to finish off the card, I'm going to add some Pocketful of Sunshine enamel dots, just adding a few around the flowers and then kind of bringing in more of that yellow into the colour combination as well. So like I said, I really love the colour combination in the end. It wouldn't have been one that I would have necessarily thought of in the first place. So it is nice to really kind of challenge yourself with things like this. So let me know in the comments if you like to create cards and projects with colour inspiration. I think you can find colour inspiration everywhere, but it's really nice to have these challenges that kind of prompt you. So I hope you'll give it a try. As you can see here, there's quite a lot of dimension to the card, but not too much that I don't think it would be difficult to mail out either. Links to the products that I used will be listed in the description bar on YouTube and also over on the Altenew blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.